Good morning. Welcome back. Try to get kind of in camera from there. Hey, there I am. Where's the camera? There. Awesome. Okay, hope you guys doing well. Good weekend. Wait. This makes more sense. Okay. Welcome back. So, a lot of things to cover today. Now let's get going with it. Okay, so, essential question. Jeez, I'm off. Okay. What is the most important lesson on leadership we can learn from Operation Torch? Okay, we're going to go a few different directions today. Got to talk about Operation Torch. Number one. Going to talk a little bit about leadership, because really at the end of the day, that's kind of what America at War is in terms of a class. It's a leadership class. We've had some great examples of leadership that we've talked about. Let's see if anyone wants to share some examples we've gone over in class. Yes. Owen. I agree. Sherman is a great example of leadership in his March to the Sea. Great example. Let's see if we have any other examples out there. The Medal of Honor winners. Addie, that's a great addition. They really can look at any of the Medal of Honor winners as individuals that demonstrate great aspects of leadership. Let's go two more. Oh, Joe, what do you got? Oh, Joe, you got to speak up. Can you get a drink? Nah. Come on, Joe. Wait. No, Robert. Okay, Robert E. Lee during his first few battles of the American Civil War, certainly he demonstrates great tactical leadership. Great choice there, Joe. Let's go one more. Abby, what do you got? Okay, I like Sergeant York from World War I. Another great choice of kind of an individual showing leadership. So if you guys haven't thought I've completely lost my mind already, we're going to dive into an example of really poor leadership and really great leadership today. So remember, fill out the quiz, answer your essential questions. 2 questions. Please remember, as we are dealing with coronavirus, shoot Corona 2020. Joe. Yeah, Joe. Okay, so here's what we got. We've talked about the Pacific Theater pretty extensively. We're going to take a pause on that. We're going to move over to the Atlantic Theater. We're going to fight the Germans now. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the plan is to first go and liberate Northern Africa. One of the reasons for that is the American soldiers, the leadership, feels that we don't want to face the Germans right away because the Germans are a very formidable fighting force. The Germans are experienced. We are inexperienced. We've never fought before, and so let's kind of get an easy win here in Northern Africa. And great on paper. Unfortunately, it does not happen. So the first major battle where the United States comes in contact with the Germans is called Kasserine Pass. Kasserine Pass is one of the first major battles of Operation Torch. Operation Torch is the U.S. invasion of Northern Africa to liberate Northern Africa from Italy and Germany. At Kasserine Pass, we have about 2,000 American soldiers and about 4 Sherman tanks, and you're going up against about 8,000 German soldiers and 100 tanks led by the Desert Fox himself, Erwin Rommel. Rommel, the Field Marshal Rommel, is one of the most famous military commanders of World War II. He's arguably the greatest German commander of World War II. He's very aggressive. He's very intelligent. He's kind of the German version of Patton, but without Patton's kind of pre-Madonna kind of personality quirks. And so Rommel completely just annihilates the U.S. forces. And there's a lot of things going on here from a leadership perspective that are big negatives. One, Patton's not here. Patton's off in Morocco helping plan the invasion of Sicily, which is going to be the next step for the Allies. Freedom. So he's not there. In his place is this guy. Where are my hands? My hands are here. There. There we go. Up there. Lloyd Friedenau. Right? Lloyd Friedenau is a great trainer of soldiers, but he's lousy on the battlefield. And that happens. McClellan was a great trainer of soldiers, but when it actually got to combat operations, he just couldn't do it. So what ends up happening is during the course of the Kasserine Pass battle, Friedenthal stays about 60 miles away from the battle. So while they need a leader to make some tactical decisions while this battle is just turning south for the United States, Friedenthal 60 miles away and he doesn't want to go to the front. So when leadership's actually needed, Friedenthal isn't there. So that's a big kind of anti-lesson of leadership. Great leaders lead from the front. Friedenthal stayed in the back. And we're going to see the counter to that with Patton. He comes in here. Okay? U.S. retreats over 50 miles is the biggest military defeat for the United States against the Germans in World War II. For a lot of Americans, the idea was, we can't beat the Germans. They're just a superior fighting force. And unfortunately, that hit to morale is starting to seep through the American military by early March of 1943. On March 4th, General Dwight D. Eisenhower kind of sees what's going on, and he tells Patton, hey, you're done planning the Sicily invasion. I need you to take over the Army Second Corps. Friedenthal is fired, Patton's in there. And to give you guys some backgrounds on Patton, Patton comes from a wealthy family. His entire family's been military generals. He believes his destiny in life is to be a great commander. And I'll have a separate video on Patton, because Patton's just this fascinating guy. Brilliant. So he gets into the Second Corps. Hair's on point. Gets in the Second Corps. He's someone who wants to lead from the front. He's hyper aggressive. One of the first things he does is he recognizes great leaders care about the small things. They care about their men. And so he improves their food. He improves their mail delivery. He does all the little things to help change that morale and get his soldiers just feeling more comfortable. He also does something far more important. He instills discipline into his army. Little things like not having your ties on if you're an officer, you get fined for. Not being clean shaven every day, you were fined for. It's those little small things like that, those little acts of discipline, that allow Patton to turn this Second Corps into a well-disciplined fighting force. Now, Patton's nickname, Old Blood and Guts, comes from a speech where he talked about greasing the treads of their tanks with the blood and guts of your enemy. So this is the type of person we're dealing with Patton. In about 30 days, Patton reforms the Second Corps in from being a group that was so bad they're just completely destroyed at Kasserine Pass to being an extremely effective fighting force. On March 23rd, 1943, he develops a plan with Bernard Montgomery Law, the British general, to basically entrap Rommel and knock him out of Northern Africa once and for all. At El Guitar, this is where this happens. So El Guitar takes place over two different cities, a short ways away from each other. Patton's at one, it's like Marxy, and El Guitar is the other one. What ends up happening is early on in the battle, Patton's soldiers are completely surprised by the Germans at El Guitar. And so what Patton does, and this is what makes Patton different than Friedenthal, is Patton gets in his Jeep and drives down to the battlefield at El Guitar. And what Patton does is he actually props himself up on a hill, and he actually looks over the battlefield as much as he can, because Patton wants to be there on the front. He actually directs from the front. His men see this. They're motivated by this. On top of that, another great aspect of Patton, or Patton's phenomenal leadership, is he put great people around him. He surrounded himself with great military leaders as well. So even though he wasn't there at the beginning, he had General Terry Allen and General Theodore Roosevelt Jr. Now, Theodore Roosevelt Jr. was the son of President Theodore Roosevelt, phenomenal military commander. We're going to talk about him quite a bit at D-Day, because that's kind of where, well, he earns the Congressional Medal of Honor that day in what one general said was the single most heroic action he ever saw in his military career. But another great aspect of leadership is surrounding yourself with good people. And that's what Patton does with Allen and Roosevelt. So even though he's not there for the Germans' initial attack, he has two great commanders there that can hold the fort until he gets there. Once he gets there, he leads his men into a second attack, a counterattack against the Germans, knocking him out at El Guitar. Well, now all this is going on where he was at Marxy. Now they're getting attacked. And so he goes from one battlefield and drives back to the second battlefield to lead his second army in a counterattack against the Germans. Now when he gets there, the subordinate person he had in charge had an opportunity to take the Germans, and he didn't do it. And Patton was a firm believer in aggression. You're always aggressive. Err on the side of aggression. one of his quotes, and I'm paraphrasing this, is a bad plan done aggressively is better than a good plan done passively. And that's the way Patton thinks. So he fires the general on the spot, takes command, and leads his soldiers in there. Well, it ends up being a little bit of a delay. A little bit of delay because his soldiers the tanks have to get through a minefield. And what Patton does is, because Patton and his leadership style is lead from the front, be aggressive. He gets into a jeep and he leads his men through the minefield, leading the way. After he says it was one of the stupidest decisions of his life, because in 1 second the 3-star general could have been killed. But if you're a soldier in that army and you see your general is leading the way through a minefield, man, that's going to inspire me. And that's what Patton did. Patton's soldiers, they hated him. They hated him for some reason because he was so disciplined. He drove his men hard. On the flip side, they also loved him because he was not going to put them in a situation that he wasn't going to put himself in. He led from the front. They respected that. They loved that about him. The other thing they loved about him, too, is he was a winner, and he kept winning. And so you dealt with all the crazy stuff Patton did because he was someone who knew what he was doing, he was competent, and you want to be part of a winning force. So they're bleeding through the counterattack. By April 6th, the U.S. has basically knocked the Germans essentially out of this El Guitar, McMassey area, and they're moving up towards northern Africa. Eisenhower, what he does is he recognizes that basically kind of the battle's over, that Patton's essentially kind of turned the tide. So he recalls Patton back to continue with the planning of the invasion of Sicily, which kind of kills Patton because Patton loves to be on the front. He wants to be a commander in the field with his men looking over the battlefield. That's what Patton wants. But he also understands once we take northern Africa, the next step is then to liberate Italy, to give us kind of a two-front situation when you start slowly taking the land back from the Germans in France and Northern Europe. Okay, so let's review here. Let's review. Give you a lot of stuff there. 1. Friedenau at Kasserine Pass gives us some great examples of poor leadership. Leading from the back, not being aggressive, kind of hoping someone else is going to take care of a problem for you. That's Friedenau. Patton, on the other hand, gives us some great examples of leadership. Lead from the front. Lead the way. Be aggressive. Default aggressive. A poor plan done aggressively is better than a great plan done passively. I love that quote from Patton. Another great Patton thing. Like, surround yourself with great people. Patton surrounds himself with Allen, with Roosevelt, with great people who can conduct his operations when he's not there. One of the reasons why we focus so much on individuals like Patton and Sherman and Jackson and Lee and all the Medal of Honor winners is because of the leadership skills that they demonstrate. And I think especially in World War II, we're going to keep going back to that because we're going to talk more about Patton for sure. His best moments still yet to come, where you could already say he saved the war for the U.S. military. But Patton's a fascinating guy. Read about him. Weird guy, certainly a weird guy, but we're going to save that for a future video. Okay. Hopefully you guys got a few things out of that. Certainly ask some questions, ask some Patton questions. Noah, I see that you stopped paying attention. Yeah, I rambled, for sure I rambled, I get it. Still good coffee, it's getting a little cold, that's okay. Okay, book review. Today we have Fighting Back. It's a book, It's a book about the War on Terror. Pretty interesting book for like an inside view of the Bush White House when they were conducting operations inside of Afghanistan in 2001. Here's a preview. But today was Sunday. So basically you've read the book. I give it a 4.3. So remember, what is the most important lesson on leadership we can learn from Operation Torch? Answer that. Number 2, fill out the quiz, answer the essential questions. 2 questions. Please remember to shoot Corona. Final thoughts here. 1, wash your hands. Stay safe. 2, practice social distancing. The quicker or the more that we're able to do stuff like that, the quicker we can get back to normal. 3, hey, as I've said before, I'll say it again, from great chaos comes great opportunity. Use this as an opportunity with the extra free time to find something to get great at. like, think of all the extra free time we have. Like, I'm trying to read some extra books, trying to work on some different things that I'm not as good at. Use this extra time to develop a skill maybe you didn't already have. Support local businesses, especially restaurants. They're struggling right now. Like, hey, we're all in this together. Is this just like World War II? No, of course it's not. However, just like in World War II, everyone had to band together. Hey, we're all on the same team. Let's beat Corona. And let's shoot it in 2020. Thank you, Joe. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Miss you guys. Can't wait to get back to school, back to class. Yay! Thumbs up.